Are the advanced buildings in Battle Nations worth it? What's up, gentlemen? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the various different advanced buildings that you can purchase with nanopods and discuss whether or not they are worth it. There's typically considered 4 different types of these advanced buildings, but I'm going to add in a 5th type just to spice things up. The first we're going to talk about is the advanced tier 1 resource buildings, and we'll go in order of when you unlock them. Starting, we have the advanced stone quarry. You unlock this at the same time as the normal stone quarry at level 3, and this is a trait that is shared a lot between a lot of these advanced buildings where you unlock them at the same time as their normal counterpart. It costs 160 nanopods to purchase, but in turn it outputs twice the amount of stone per hour compared to the normal variant, which does cap out at 200. With most of these advanced buildings, they are pretty good in the early game, but are much more important in the mid to late game because early on you're not going to be producing large amounts of concrete, so it's not super important. It's still pretty good, but definitely not required. The next building is the advanced iron mine, which is unlocked at level 8 and costs 160 nanos. It shares the same double iron output and is by far the best advanced tier 1 building because iron is something that you need pretty much for the entire game. Another beneficial part is the fact that it reduces how much population it needs by going from 4 to 3, which can be helpful for min-maxing. It's once again not required, but it'll definitely reduce some of the stress of resource management and can definitely make the early game less grindy. The next advanced tier 1 building is the logging camp, which is unlocked at level 9 for 160 nanos. They output twice the amount of wood as a normal logging camp, but to be completely honest, you don't really need these unless you have 5 lumber mills and you're spamming them constantly, so they're not super worth to pick up. Even if you are whaling, I seriously don't recommend making every forest node on your base an advanced one because it's just a fuck ton of nanos for something you don't really need outside of a boss strike that's donation resource is lumber, which in that case I guess it is valid, but for a normal player, just skip this. The next you unlock is the advanced oil pump, which you unlock at level 14 for 160 nanos. It outputs twice the amount of oil as a normal pump, and it is by far the least required advanced tier 1 building. You really only need oil for a handful of things, and other than upgrading a vehicle factory, the amount of oil you need for producing or healing units is pretty damn low. The only other reason I can see for getting a bunch of these is if you're trying to save some more population because they do only cost 4 pop instead of 5, or if you're spamming plasma because that does actually take a bit of oil, but to be fair you're probably going to be running out of vials way before you're going to be running out of oil in that case. The last advanced tier 1 building is the coal mine, which you unlock at level 21 for 160 nanos and outputs double the amount of coal. This one is decently useful for if you want to produce a ton of steel because, as you probably already know, coal is basically only used for making steel, which does make it pretty important, and it also does reduce how much pop you need by going from 4 to 3, but once again, it's not entirely needed, and you're able to get by without purchasing any of these. Do keep in mind that with these advanced tier 1 buildings, there were limited time events where all of them would sometimes appear at a discount price, which it is unknown if Madrona will do this again, so keep this in mind when purchasing them. The next type of advanced building in Battle Nations is the tier 2 buildings, which are pretty similar to the tier 1s but function a bit differently because of a couple different reasons. One of the biggest is that they do increase the yield of concrete, steel, and lumber, but a giant part is the fact that they do this at a much more efficient rate than their normal counterparts, plus some of these buildings have secret bonuses which are pretty awesome. The first type is the advanced concrete plant, which is unlocked at level 15 and costs 160 nanopods to purchase. The advanced concrete plant is pretty nice because, like I said earlier, it helps conserve stone by converting it into concrete at a 1.5 to 2 ratio instead of a 2 to 1 ratio. It also has the bonus of having much better jobs where, at the normal concrete plant, the 1 hour job is the best, but at the advanced, the 2 hour job is equivalent to running the 1 hour job twice, so it saves you from having to check in on them as much. I personally feel like the advanced concrete plant is extremely helpful because you need concrete for so many things in the mid to late game, especially with upgrading other buildings, so investing in one is honestly not a bad idea, but it is not required. The second advanced tier 2 building is the steel mill, which you unlock at level 21 and also costs 160 nanopods. The advanced steel mill is extremely nice to have because if you don't plan to have any advanced coal mines, it will tremendously help with conserving coal. Its jobs are all around much better than the normal version, with the 3-hour job genuinely being insane. I think in terms of the tier 2 buildings, I would personally say the advanced steel mill is the best because you need steel for so many different things, and this will help cut down the amount of grind and the amount of waiting by so much. So this is the first one where I generally would say that it is worth the 160 nanos almost no matter what. But even with that, it is possible to get by without one of these. The last advanced tier 2 building is the lumber mill, which is unlocked at level 24 and once again costs 160 nanos. This is the only advanced tier 2 building that I feel like you don't really need because lumber isn't quite used as much as concrete or steel, plus wood is pretty damn easy to obtain, so it's not as pressing to have more efficiency. It is nice that its 1-hour job is very solid, and if you do need lots of lumber for something, this can definitely help, but once again, it is not needed. Just like with the tier 1 advanced buildings, it wasn't uncommon to see these go on sale from time to time, which, if this feature returns again, it would be smart to try and wait until they become cheaper before buying a whole bunch. It is also worth mentioning that these are an effective way to skip having to tank a bunch of your pop, building storage so that you can build them earlier on. The last of this type of advanced buildings is the tier 4 variants, which there's actually only one, and it's the advanced plasma refinery. You unlock this at level 67, and it also costs 160 nanopods to purchase. The advanced plasma refinery creates plasma but at a much more efficient rate than its normal counterpart, costing way less vials and oil. If you look at the graph, it's actually the most efficient to keep this either at level 4 or level 8 to get the most bang for your buck with the vials. I definitely feel like this is worth the 160 nanos, and when we finally do get level 67, this should definitely be one of the first things that you build because it'll save you the headache of eating up all your vials for just 3 plasma in return. Moving past resource-related buildings, we have a couple repairing or healing buildings in which I think all 3 are actually definitely useful. First off, we have the Advanced Hospital, which you unlock at level 3 and costs 180 nanopods. The Advanced Hospital is awesome. It's basically the normal hospital, but all the stats are buffed in every single way. First off, the healing cost and time are reduced by 13% and 20% respectively. And this cost reduction does count for tier 3 resources like skulls, gears, teeth, and bars, and tier 4 resources like laurels, widgets, powder, and necklaces. You also get additional Q spots going from 6 units at level 10 to 11 at level 10. But the best part of the Advanced Hospital is the fact that you can have an infinite amount of them, unlike the normal hospital where you can only ever have one. With all these benefits, this makes the Advanced Hospital amazing for boss strikes, grinding encounters with weak units, or just generally healing a unit and saving resources, time, and brain cells in the process. It is definitely worth buying, but at the same time, it's not totally required. The next of this type is the Advanced Repair Bay, which is unlocked at level 5 and costs 180 nanos to buy. The Advanced Repair Bay is pretty much identical in every way to the Advanced Hospital, but it's for vehicles, which honestly makes it better because most of the more expensive units to heal are vehicles, and a lot of them take a long time to heal, so this just cuts all of that by a pretty big margin. I definitely think that this thing will be amazing for boss strikes and an absolute game changer. The last of this type is the Advanced Ship Repair Bay, which is unlocked at level 25 and costs 180 nanos to buy. This thing is once again just like the other two, but works for only naval units, and it was genuinely so nice for fighting the respawnable dreadnought when we were level capped at only level 40. It'll also once again be extremely helpful for when we get a naval only boss strike, where we're going to be losing M10s and R1s left and right, so having one or a couple for that will definitely be nice. Just like the advanced resource buildings, there were limited time discounts and deals for these back in the day, so if you're planning on getting a fuck ton of these, waiting until they're on sale could definitely help you save a decent chunk of nanopods. The last category of the advanced buildings is kind of a stretch, but if you think about it, they're pretty much the advanced version, and it is none other than the 2 nano storage buildings. First off is the Storage Vault, which you unlock at level 7 and costs 105 nanos. This building was a godsend for the early game. It gives you 2,000 storage and only consumes 4 pop, which is nuts because in the beginning of the game, the one thing bottlenecking your population is storage because of all the free-to-play storages, not only taking a bunch of resources to build, but they also take up 8 population or 6 population each. Starting out, it would take 4 small warehouses to equal the same storage, but they would take up 32 population, whereas the Storage Vault would give you the same 2,000, but for only 4 pop. This is without a doubt one of the best usages for nanos early game, and removes a ton of the stress of managing population early on. The next nano storage is the High Capacity Vault, which you unlock at level 40 and costs 140 nanos. This vault gives you 3,000 storage and only consumes 4 pop, which, for when you unlock it, is still pretty damn good. To replicate the same storage, you would need 2 large warehouses, which not only would take up a bunch of land and cost a bunch of resources, but together they take up 12 pop, whereas this thing only takes up 4. It is once again pretty damn worth for 140 nanos, but unlike the Storage Vault, for when you get it, it's not as required because you're going to have stuff like the Permits Office, which can make the stress of managing population a bit less intense, so it's not as needed. This last chunk is ideas for more advanced buildings and or changes to existing ones. The first idea is an advanced version of the Refinement Facility. This would presumably be unlocked at the same time at level 42 and cost between 160 to 180 nanos, and would pretty much be either a quicker way to produce tier 4 resources, maybe it would cut the time in half or only take 3 resources instead of 5, or it could produce 2 of the same or 2 different tier 4 resources at the same time. The next idea is for an advanced version of the Chemical Reservoir, which would be unlocked at level 68 like the normal version and would cost between 60 to maybe 120 nanos. It would produce 8 vials per day, or 4 vials like the normal one, but would only take 12 hours instead of 1 day. The last idea is for the advanced coal mine having the ability to randomly generate an iron, stone, or oil for every 5 to 10 coal mined, because you only have 2 coal nodes on the entire outpost, so it wouldn't really be super broken, and would give more of an incentive on buying them because they're not really needed unless you're producing steel like a motherfucker. That's pretty much it for this video though. If you have some differing opinions on whether or not some of these advanced buildings are worth it, drop it in the comments down below. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe consider dropping a like or a sub. But with that, I'll see you guys later.